Okay guys, I am here in the shop and we're going to do a little video of remodeling my most carried XM-24. I'm doing this because I had shown the finished product on the XM-18 and I was asked, hey, did you happen to do a video on the process? And I didn't, which was dumb. I should have, but I didn't. So we're going to do a little creative work to the XM-24, and I haven't done a project video in a while, and excuse me, this is not going to be the most exciting project video, but we are going to do a little bit of hydrographics, a little bit of Cerakote on this, and hopefully it'll be a little fun to watch. So what I'm going to do is I am going to do some hydrographics, cool pattern we just got in the shop on the scale here, and then I am going to do some Cerakote on the frame and all of the hardware. And so the hardware you see here, I'm going to take off this anodized stuff and I'm going to use some just stock, bare metal finish that I have for the spacers, the nuts, the screws, the pivot, and the like. I've carried this for a long time, prior to me losing them in the big move. But I thought it would be nice to just give this thing a little new life. So this hydrographics pattern is called Raider Broadsword, and it's got a cool look to it. If you take a look, it's like lots of little geometric patterns, but this is what I'm going to put on the scale. So the first thing we need to do is we need to disassemble everything, of course, and we need to give the scale a base coat, which is basically going to be what we call one-hit wonder, specially formulated base coat that we use for hydrographics. And it's going to be a little tricky because all of these little areas, these indents, those are all potential what we call voids, area that air can get trapped and prevent the hydrographics film, the inks from sticking. So I'm going to have to be real careful. I'm also going to have to try to figure out which specific part of the film I want to use, to get the colors, because there's different colors in this. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to disassemble this whole thing, and we'll get the scale set up, and then we'll come back to the hardware and everything. Got everything broken down. We've got little screws in these clamps, so we don't need to mask off the threads with the stop pin. We'll have all these items. I didn't have an extra filler tab, unfortunately, so I'm going to have to lose the nice blue ano. We got the pivot masked because we don't want anything to interfere with the operation of the knife. We've got just standard colored standoffs that we're going to use, lock stop, and like I said, the nuts and the screws and a regular old clip. So all this needs to go to the sandblaster now. We're going to do this very light, the G10, on like 20 psi, just so we get the coating, base coat to stick. And then we'll do the metal parts at 80, just a little bit higher. And I'm not worried about masking anything, because it's just going to be a light blast just to get stuff to stick to it. And when I did this, I didn't like plug holes or anything. It came out just fine. So all this goes to the sandblaster now, and then we'll work on this, and then we'll get to Cerakoting all the colorful stuff. Here is the white base coat that's gonna go under our scale, well, under the hydrographics on the scale. This is not the gun I normally shoot this stuff with, but since I'm just doing such a small batch this time, I'm gonna use this. One hit wonder. Let's go do a scale. So I cut out a piece of the film that we're going to use, and I made myself a nifty little handle, and it fits. And if we want to do some twisting to catch different colors or shapes, we can. And it'll make a decent dip. So now I just have to figure out, since I'm using my phone, exactly how I'm going to lay this on the water nicely with one hand, which I'm not sure I can do, but I'm going to try. Not bad, not bad. You guys didn't even see that because of the way I had to hold everything. So this needs to hydrate for a minute. I'm going to put some tape barriers on either side. I'll be back in a sec. Alright, so I've got my tape dams down. I don't see any bubbles that we're worried about in there. There's our buzzer. So time for some activator. And you'll see how this turns to a nice glassy surface with the activator. Okay, I'm happy with that. So let's get the piece, and I think I want to get some green in there. So I'm going to start right here. I'm going to go angled, kind of slowly, trying to avoid a rush, trying to avoid bubbles and voids. And hopefully, when we rinse, we retain all those colors in that full pattern. So when you see people do dipping on YouTube, most of the time they just take it right out of the water and it looks great. And they say, oh, look how nice this is. They never show you after the rinse. And that's what really matters. So we have a rinse tank here. I'm gonna try to do this one-handed as I hold the phone, which is not the most exciting view for you guys, I know, but yeah, see? Pretty gross curtain there. You gotta rinse. You gotta get all the shiny PVA that's left on there, the polyvinyl alcohol film off, and rinse any excess. And that's when you really know what you got, not until then. So this thing is going to rinse for 5 minutes, and then we'll see what we got. All right, the rinse is done. And now we can actually see what kind of a finish we have. Oh, it looks like we've got some void areas. Not the best. Yeah, I was afraid of that with this very textured scale. Now, I can touch that up with a little airbrushing. Or I could just keep it like this, and you know, I don't know, I might keep it like this, I might touch it up, we'll see. I could also just do it again too, but when you have these very textured areas, it gets complicated with the Hydrographics. I was hoping for a perfect dip, and like I said, you know, you never know what you get until you rinse it off. Everything looks great when you take it right out of the water. So I'm gonna let this dry on its hook completely, and we will get to work on the hardware aspect of it, the Cerakoting. We have lots of stuff to go Cerakote. I decided that for the liner, the frame, and the clip screws here, we're going to go with Troy Coyote Tan. It's a nice brown color. I think it's going to match what we're doing with the scale pretty good, with all the different shades of brown on that. And it's kind of a little different than flat darker, a little darker, but I think it's going to look pretty nice once it's all on here. For the other hardware, I'm going to go with a green color. I haven't decided what it is yet, but this is what we've got so far. So for all of this, all the different hardware, spacers, the lock stop, the screw for it, the pivot, the frame nuts and screws, all that other stuff, I decided I was going to go with Multicam Light Green. I think it's pretty good. It's sort of complementary to the green that's in the film. I think it goes well with the brown we're using, so it's going to go well. It's going to look good. So I'm going to mix up some of this in the gun, and we're going to spray all this stuff. Here is an example of what our Cerakoted parts are going to look like together. I think that complements pretty well. I decided I was not happy with the way the scale turned out, so I blasted it off. I recoated white. We're going to try it again. I'm going to use a slightly different dipping technique to make sure that we get coverage inside all these little tiny craters there. But I'm just going to give this, I got to give this a little bit more time for that paint to that coating to cure, and then we can go for the dip again. And I got the tank all warmed up, but I really like the the colors that are going to be on all the metal parts so far. So we'll see. Hopefully this dip will go a little bit better. You'll see the different technique I'm going to use, and then we'll dead flat coat this once it's done and get everything back together. Alright, so I have another little duct tape handle. The plan this time, rather than going angled, is to go angled, but it's to go this way, down slowly and push into the film to sort of help it fill in all of those little depressions. So I have the film again. We're going to do the same kind of thing, but hopefully this will work better. We want to avoid that bubble. I'm going to go this way. Oh, it looks really good. You see the cracking in the film? That's not exciting me. Not at all. It looks great from here, but I'm gonna actually let this sit for about 10 minutes before we rinse. You can see those fine cracks in the film. It might be bad film. That's usually why you get those cracks. Yeah. Look at that. It came out pretty good. I was worried about those cracks. The only thing we have is there's a little adhesion problem up on the top, and that's probably because it got overactivated, because that hit the area of the film where it was sitting in the activator the longest, and you got to be very careful. You can't underactivate, you can't overactivate. It does bad things to the ink either way. And this is a new kind of experience doing dipping. See the bottom, great adhesion. Top, well, a little bit of problem, but overall I think it looks good. It came out really nice, and that green is a pretty good match to the green we're using, so I like that. Got some of the green right there in the middle. I'm thinking now I should have done some of the hardware in black, but too late now. It's all done. So we're still not ready to assemble. This is done. I'm going to let this just sit, and then we need to do a clear coat over it to protect it, and I'm going to do what we call dead flat, which is exactly what it sounds like. It is just dead flat. So we're still about a day away from being able to assemble all this into one coherent knife, but somewhere's in the neighborhood of that with all the bits and bobs and everything else, it's going to look pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the way it's coming out, and it's going to be a one of a kind. So I thought about doing something with the blade, but in the end I decided not to, just leave it as is. So I'll probably try to grab a shot inside the clean room. That's where we have the overpressure system, keep away dust and dirt and all that stuff. For when we do our nice clear coats and everything. But definitely we'll get to reassemble all this tomorrow. When we do the dead flat, so it's a 4, 1, and 2 ratio. So it's almost like an epoxy. I shouldn't say that. It's not an epoxy, but it is a good, strong, mixed up clear coat. So it's a polyurethane is what it is. So I have to get a sweet mixing cup and gotta stir this guy up a little bit, and I'll do that and mix the ratios. You won't see that because I need 2 hands, and again using the phone to do it all. But we'll mix this up, we'll get it into the big spray gun, because that's really what sprays it the best, and then we'll take it into the room and we'll get this going. Even though this stuff looks very opaque, it dries crystal clear when we put it on in thin layers. So I'm going to put it in this PPS cup, and I'm going to pop the top on. Make sure that this is sealed nicely. Okay. Yeah, different kind of system than using one of the smaller, what we normally use for Cerakote kind of guns, but we're going to use this guy here. This is kind of a larger coverage spray gun. So now I'm going to clean this cup real quick and then take this into the spray booth. So it's a bit noisy in here, and I'm going to be putting my mask on in a second. Reverse scale. I'm also going to be doing the clear coat on the skull rifles. Try to get a quick shot of, but you know, as we learned, it's a little hard for me to do one-handed filming camera and all that stuff. This is, it's dried. It's dry to the touch. It takes about 24 hours for a full hardened protective cure. So we can mess with it, we can put it back together, but it's not at full strength. But damn, looks good. I'm really happy with it. Now yesterday, I was walking around with a little bottle of KPL in my pocket all day because I thought this was going to be a one-day project. But I'm going to put it together without KPL, because you can always, KPL has good capillary action, I can always put it in there. Just so I wouldn't lose any pieces, I had put all this together, so the pivot and all these spacers are already in. The clip and the filler tab are already assembled, which makes life just a little bit easy. And you guys, you didn't miss much. I just put metal parts in. So going to get this guy on here, and let's get the liner on. So one of these is coming out. I'm gonna, doing all this with one hand is not always the easiest. Not everything can be done one-handed. I've got masking tape on the slot driver here, on the flathead, just so we don't mess anything up with the new coating we gave this pivot. This is the way to make sure we get stuff centered. A little tension there. How does that feel? Feels good. A little sloppy though, so go a little bit more. How are we centering? Okay. A little bit more. Again, doing stuff with one hand, not the easiest procedure. Looks good. I'll tighten up these frame screws, which you can't see because I'm doing a horrible job. One, two, and this is the worst camera work of this whole video. And with those tightened, we can go a little bit tighter on the pivot. A little bit more. That'll do it. My favorite XM-24 has a new look, a new life, and God, the action on this knife is just unbelievable. So there we go. There's a new in the shop video. You know, customizing things doesn't have to be a big grand project. You know, you can do just a little bit of work on stuff and then have a one-of-a-kind piece. It's as simple as changing some colors around, putting a pattern on it, whatever. But then you have something that no one else has. And it's awesome. And it reminds me of a frog. But I love it more now than I did before. And all of the wear that showed on it is gone. And now it's Cerakoted, which will protect it for the future. And no one else is going to have this scale. So, cool. Cool. What do you guys think? I know that you guys have been asking me to do more project stuff in the shop, and I will do more detailed, you know, work here, more in-depth, actual custom stuff. But this was a quick, easy one to do, so I wanted to make sure that I got some recording done. It's a cool pattern. You can still see the little cracks in the film, though, so that's, like I said, that's a sign of a bad film, those little cracks. Probably gonna have to order a new batch of that. But I think it came out pretty good. I like it. Thinking about it now, I don't know. Might have liked to use black instead of the brown, but I mean the brown is cool too because it really kind of it all blends in. We got the dark brown, whether we use brown, black, whatever. So, love to know your opinion, guys. What do you think of this project? Please let me know. Just another day here in the life of Patriot Armory and Coatings, where we are customizing and doing all sorts of stuff. While I've been working on this, and my time, did a shotgun stock in mossy oak top blind and a skull. So, always doing custom stuff. Always, always, always. So thanks guys for going through this process with me. I hope you liked it. And remember that you guys are all absolutely awesome. I appreciate every single one of you. And I will be back again real soon.